is Terry Bradshaw, quarterback, Pittsburgh Steelers.
It's 7:15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron.
This is baseball, Major League Baseball. And this is
ABC's Monday Night Baseball, live from Fenway Park in Boston, Massachusetts.
Looking. He's under the gun. He's fired. He throws. It is.
Summer is here, and what better way to kick off the season than with one of the greatest hitters who ever lived. Welcome to Past Our Prime, the show where three guys who should probably know better, Scott Johnston, Mark Hoffman, and Bill Mahoney, crack open old issues of Sports Illustrated and let the pages take them wherever they lead. And this week, the magazine leads us straight to George Brett, the Kansas City Royals legend, whose career was as memorable as any in baseball history, certainly any than when we were growing up, Bill.
Oh my gosh, yeah. My gosh, I watched George Brett. I don't think he ever got out against the Angels. He got his 3,000th hit against him. He probably got all his hits against him. Man, he was just an amazing player, but still, even though he was on a team that was always better than the Angels, one of my favorites, just an amazing ball player.
Mark, it's funny. Here's a guy with over 3,000 hits, did it all on the baseball field, including winning 3 batting titles 18 years apart, and yet he's probably most remembered for one incident on a hot summer day in 1983 in the Bronx.
That's right, the pine tar incident, and I was working doing weekend sports for the ABC affiliate in Bakersfield, KBAK-TV, and I remember seeing that shot of him in the dugout and getting the news and running straight at the umpire with like fire in his eyes, like you're in trouble and I'm gonna burn you.
I was going to ask you guys, can you recall anything like seeing someone that mad? Not necessarily, personally, but have you ever seen someone just that incensed over something?
Ron Artest comes to mind.
What, the Malice in the Palace?
Going into the crowd?
There's been a few. I'm trying to think of the one that there was one. It's not coming to me. They had to pen the guy down, and but you never know. Some of it you've seen, like we've seen Lou Piniella blow up, but that could have been an act. So it's hard to say because a lot of these guys, some of the things we talked about, like Lenny Randall slugging, Lucchese. We didn't see it, but how angry do you have to be to walk up when someone's not even ready for it and slug them?
Yep.
But no, in real life, no.
Thank God.
I mean,
people get mad, but not to that point where you just, you are literally uncontrollable in that 15, 20 second time period.
Yeah.
I mean, these days it doesn't take much to get people mad, especially, and it gets encouraged on social media. Like there's so many sites where it's some guy working out and he shows like video of a street fight or people just fighting each other, and those get a lot of hits because people like to watch other people beat the crap out of each other, which is really sad.
Well, it's funny because he's on the bench and before anyone can realize what the hell's happened, he's 20 feet onto the field, and the rest of the players are like, "Uh-oh, we should probably go stop that."
But in the interview, Brett had said that was it Frank White looked over and said, "Yeah, you might be out."
Right.
And Brett said, if they call me out, I'm going out there. Someone's going to pay for this. Yeah. And he did.
He sure did.
People have very low fuses.
Yes, they do.
Scorecard. Calvin Griffith, boy, known for his tight budget operations. He was, tight's a good word for him, isn't it, Mark?
Oh yeah, well he didn't want to pay Burt Blyleven any money. Blyleven wanted 1.2 million over 4 years, which is, if you do the math, 300,000 a year, which back then was a hell of a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Today it'd be like, huh, what? That's my per diem money. But you said no, go someone's crazy enough to pay you, and I think the Rangers gave him like 5 years, 100. Was it 500? No, it was 500,000. I want to say they gave
Over
him.
3 years.
Yeah, over 3 years. So,
So he didn't
but wait
get
a second.
close.
No, it's got to be 500,000 a year, because if he was asking for 300 a year, if it was 500,
Yeah.
that'd be 1.5 million. That'd be more money. That would make sense. The article doesn't say it, but it had to have been for 500,000 a year. But again, that is a ton of money back then. But yeah, Griffin was just notorious, and he had a real hatred like for other teams that spent money too, like the Red Sox.
Yeah, guys, I'm
Just
told him said the Red Sox were the things that screwed things up for everybody else. But at the time, they weren't even paying Fred Lynn, Carlton Fisk, or Rick Burleson, as we all know, were eventually sent packing. I just liked how Burt Blyleven called Calvin Griffith the fat man.
well, the Griffith family owned the Washington Senators. That was their team, and then they
Yeah.
moved the Senators to Minnesota, in 1961, and so that was the end of the Washington Senators until a few years later, when there was the new Washington Senators, and then became the Texas Rangers. So anytime you see the Rangers and Twins play, that is really the Washington Senators taking on the Washington Senators.
Yeah.
And Griffith didn't have any sympathy for those Red Sox. He said, people in my type of situation have always considered the Red Sox that screwed things up for everyone else the way they pay. So he was not happy with how they had paid people in the past. And it was a 3-year contract for Blyleven for just over $500,000. So he didn't get nearly the amount of money he thought he was going to get on the open market. He got more than what he also had flipped off the fans in Minnesota. So his time had come to an end for this time. He goes back and plays.
Goes back there.
Yeah. So that's about 165,000 a year.
Exactly. Yep.
What would Calvin Griffith think today of baseball?
He wouldn't be in. I mean, even up to the end of his life, he was still nickel and diming players.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Finleys and the Griffiths and those kind of guys, they were operating under a different business model. That's for sure.
They're in the pre-Kurt Flood business.
Yeah. Yep.
We just renew you every year, and you just be happy that you're here and make sure to get that job once the season's done.
And that wasn't good, obviously, for the players. And that being said, Charlie Finley was adamant that if we change it to the way it basically is now, he goes, that will make it out of control in another way. And he's completely right about that as well.
Yep.
So
Very true.
They were never able to find a happy medium that would, look, I suppose they're all happy, but, ticket prices are.
Yeah, that's never mentioned when it comes to these negotiations.
That they should still be $3 the way they were at Dodger Stadium for forever, but they're not affordable anymore, and that's the difference.
What I'm saying, but no one brings that up in negotiations.
No,
it's just we want this, you won't give that. Yeah, I mean, there's no way. I mean, if we all decide to go to a Dodger game tonight and get decent seats, we'll say it could be over $1,000.
Yep,
and that's not including parking, drinking, anything.
Just try going to the NBA Finals and paying to see the Madison Square Garden.
Not a chance.
Yeah, I had a friend go last night with his son. 2 tickets for $6,000.
Holy smokes!
Back when quotes were bold, they said it. Back when quotes were bold, they said it.
Phil.
David Pickett. He's a 9th-round draft pick out of Northeast Louisiana University, picked by the Lakers. He says, "I feel like I have a chance as the first man chosen, and I'll be a lot less expensive." Well, he was inexpensive because he never played a minute in the NBA.
Yeah.
Get that out of my mouth, it would have been better. But yes.
I knew where you were going. I feel like
I have just as good a chance as the first man chosen, and I'll be a lot less expensive. There you go. Now I own that.
Perfect. Take 2. In the magazine, I think they say that he was the 9th pick.
Yeah, so I looked that up.
Yeah.
I thought I'd never heard of David Pickett. I would have known back in the day.
It was the 9th round pick.
Yes. I looked that up, Scott. I kept thinking, hey, I don't know every player in the NBA from back in the day, but that's in the days where my whole life revolved around the Lakers.
Right.
So I
Mm.
would have known David Pickett.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was not anybody I knew and he didn't make it. But I mean, just to say though, your whole life you can say, yeah, I was drafted by the Lakers.
Mark, you got one?
Yes, I do. Tommy John, prior guest here on Past Our Prime, he was talking about how the Dodgers had just been crushed by the Phillies 14-2. And he thinks Philadelphia at this point might be even better than the Reds. But he said, but that's like comparing the atom bomb to the hydrogen bomb. They're both going to kill you.
That's very
Yeah.
fair and very
And
positive.
they were. They were the two dominant teams in the league.
Yes. They just didn't kill millions of people.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Very positive. Keep them killing.
Let's get inside the magazine. And Bill, start off with one of the best to ever lace him up, who's on the move from Boston to Chicago.
Yep, Bobby Orr. If Boston wouldn't pay him, Chicago said, we'll step up and pay him. But when you look at that deal from 50 years later, boy, Chicago, just not the greatest move. They had said that they're going to gamble on Bobby Orr playing for them. And if he doesn't play because of his knee, we pay and we lose. Well, that gamble didn't pay off because Bobby Orr only played 26 games in 2 seasons in Chicago, 6 goals, 27 points. But, Chicago was sort of a down team at that time. So adding a guy like Bobby Orr put fans in the seats. But to be honest, when you're only playing 26 games, I don't believe you're actually making any money on that. But I have no idea what happened to their GM, Tommy Ivan, that okayed that deal, which was over $3 million for 5 years.
Ooh.
Wow. And what's really interesting about that contract, so it's a 5-year deal he signs with the Blackhawks, okay, for $3 million, but it's to be paid over 30 years. And this was to minimize taxes. Doesn't that sound a little like Otani?
Yes, it does.
Deferred payment today. But
Exactly.
he's apparently, or said as a player, he never cashed the check because he said he was paid to play hockey and would not accept a salary if he was not playing.
God, that sounds like him, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then he retired in '78, so he
Yep.
didn't even go through the 5 years of the deal.
But he should have retired. It's unfortunate Bruins couldn't figure out a way. Bobby Orr should have retired a Bruin.
Yeah.
He should have.
George fills the royal flush. Time to get to our cover guy, and that is George Brett, Hall of Fame third baseman for the Kansas City Royals. Jim Palmer tried to outsmart Brett in the first inning by throwing a hard slider inside. Brett pulled it to right field, scored a run, and the Royals never looked back. Pitchers do not get rich, matching which with George Brett. Through May, Brett was just on fire, guys. Hit .605, had 6 consecutive 3-hit games. Possibly a major league record that couldn't even be verified back in the day. But I think they actually did end up verifying it. And can you imagine having a week of a guy that had 3-hit games every day of the week? That's just insane.
Especially in today's baseball. I mean, where if you bat over 300, you're like in select company.
But also, now, back in the day, they threw inside on you. And they came to get you if you were getting those hits. The fact that it was just a different game back in the day. So he's looking at pitchers that are like, okay, we'll shut this guy down. So the fact he was still doing it showed how great a hitter he was.
Yeah, I saw a video clip the other day where it showed his it was the playoffs where they beat the Yankees. So I think that was in 1980, and they're down in the game. I want to say 4. They're down, couple runs, 2 on, 2 out for Brett, and they bring in Gossage. And Brett actually says in the video, goes, I was glad that Gossage was coming in because he attacks me, and if he makes a mistake, I have a chance. And then the announcers say on the broadcast, they go, you do not want to miss inside. If you miss inside, he's gonna hit it out. And that's exactly what happened. He throws, that goose heat on the inside part of the plate, and it ends up in the third deck at Yankee Stadium.
But you wonder now with someone like Brett, would they try to change his style, maybe become a 270 hitter with 45 home runs? Because see that, I mean, he was an amazing guy, amazing man with a bat in his hand. Power, average, could steal. That didn't mean the bat was in his hand there, but still just could do it all.
Well, there was a guy that changed his hitting style. Charlie Lau was known for
Yeah.
being one of the best hitting instructors ever. And Mark, once he got a hold of Brett, he did change his style and sent him on a trajectory to Cooperstown.
Well, I'm going to ask him about that because Charlie Lau really, I think, and he wasn't with the Royals that long, but I think he really helped change the hitter that George was. So it'll be interesting to see what his comments are.
I mean, Charlie Lau was a guy that everyone loved too. He died really young.
Yeah.
A lot of hitters swear by him.
Mm-hmm.
Brett's manager, Whitey Herzog, summed it up simply. Unless a bone is sticking out of him, he's ready to play every day. Sometimes when we intro a guest, we read their resume and it takes forever to get through it all. Fran Tarkenton took like 90 seconds. Not going to do that today. Nope, today got 2 words for you. George Brett. If you don't know who that is, turn on NPR. You're listening to the wrong show. Hey, George, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
We're great.
Good.
We're great. Thank you so much for joining us on Past Our Prime.
All right.
50 years ago, you're in the midst of a breakout season. What was it like as a kid to be on the cover of the magazine of record, Sports Illustrated?
Well, I'd known for a couple of days that I was going to be doing this, and I just remember when I was 10 or 11, probably 10 years old. I have 3 older brothers, and my brother Ken obviously pitched in the major leagues for 12, 14 years, played on a bunch of different teams, but he was 14 or 15 years old, and he was pitching in the Babe Ruth World Series, and he threw a no-hitter, and he was in Faces in the Crowd. You remember that little column on the back? It had a little picture of a guy, and it had a 1-paragraph reason why he was in Faces of the Crowd. And man, I thought he had made it big being in Sports Illustrated. Little did I know, all these years later that I'd be on the cover 5 times, but it was really great. You always heard about the Sports Illustrated jinx, you're on the cover, you're going to suck for a week. I don't know if I ever did suck for a week after being on the cover, but it was a great thrill to be on my first cover. I think it was 76?
Yeah.
Yep.
1976. Yeah. And I have them all somewhere in the house.
June 21st.
I don't have a bunch of memorabilia in my house. Like you walk into some guys' houses, they have jerseys and stuff. The balls that you see behind me, one year I went to the Hall of Fame. I'll tell you what year it was. It was 2008. And since I didn't have a lot of memorabilia in my house, and I've never really asked for autographs, I decided that I needed something in my house. So I brought 2 or 3 dozen baseballs, and I had every living Hall of Famer sign them. That was at that dinner in 2008 or at the deal. And everybody was gracious enough to sign them. And so I brought them all home, and then we had this case delivered. And it starts off, I think the first one I got is, oh my God, Ted Williams. Goes back to Ted Williams, and the last one I got is Dick Williams. How's that?
Wow.
So, yeah, it's pretty cool. And I'm thinking about this year going back and doing it again because a lot of these guys behind me are dead. And I need, to get some more balls up there because it is a great display when people come over to the house. They always look at that. That's the one thing they look at.
Yeah, well, anything that starts with Ted Williams is pretty cool. And if you're only going to have one thing, I think you did very well.
Well, thank you.
In 76, you're getting good. In fact, in early May of that year, you have a stretch where you have 3 hits in 6 straight games, an MLB record. Your team is also getting good. You guys win your first division title, the first of quite a few. What was it like to be a part of that young, exciting Royals team when they were just about to start taking off?
Can you still see me? I can see you, but my screen, I'm on my iPad right now.
Yeah,
this is unbelievable.
We can see you perfect.
I was getting a call from my friend Reggie Jackson. Just as we were speaking. It's crazy.
He wants to join.
Yeah, go on.
Well, hey, Reggie's never shied away from a microphone. You know that. But no, it was good. You know what people don't realize is the Oakland A's were the world champions in 73, 4, and 5. They had Bando, they had Reggie, they had Catfish, they had Vita Blue, they had Raleigh Fingers, they had, an unbelievable ball club. Joe Rudy, Sal Bando, you name it, they were on the team. Campy. The Royals just became a team in 1969. So, we made a little run in 75. I don't know how many games we lost by, but to end up beating the World Series champions who were in our division at that time, that was a big thrill. And we didn't know how good we were. But as the season went on, we were competitive. We were beating a lot of good ball clubs, and we just gained a lot of confidence. I think Whitey Herzog did a great job in managing player matchups and things like that. And I just remember we had Cookie Rojas playing second base, and we went to Oakland, and we near the end of the season, and we had to win. And he started Larry Gura, who was really unproven at that time, in a must-win game. And Cookie Rojas was playing second base instead of Frank White, and Cookie got a big 2-out bunt hit. Larry, I think we beat him 4-0. Larry shut him out. And that catapulted us to our first division championship. But, we were a young team. We didn't go out and sign free agents. That was against our owner's wishes. He didn't believe in going out and spending the big bucks to get a Reggie Jackson or a Catfish Hunter at that time. So it was all homegrown players and players we got via the trade. And little did we know that we had a good team for a long time. We had a 10-year period where I think we had the best record in all of baseball.
Yeah. Every October, there you guys were.
Yeah.
You went to El Segundo High School here in Southern California. Now you head off to Kansas City. Could you ever have imagined that Kansas City, Missouri would have such an impactful part on your life?
No, I really didn't. My brother Ken, after the 76 season, told me that I should make my home in Kansas City. He said, "George, you're going to be there a long time." And I'm going, "What do you mean a long time?" He says, I don't think they'll ever trade you. And the thing about my brother Ken is he got traded so often, but he continued to live in Boston. He got traded, I think 6-7 years in a row, kept getting traded, and he never got to become a part of the community. And always would go back to Boston in the wintertime. He said, you have two choices. You can just kind of be a summer resident of Kansas City and not get to know anybody, or you can know the whole town. And so I took his advice. I bought a home in Blue Springs, Missouri, bought it off a pitcher we had, Paul Splittorff. He was a realtor. As soon as the season ended, guess what? Everybody had jobs then.
Yeah.
You're making $20,000 a year, and if you got kids, you had a job the day the season ended. And so I bought a house from Paul. I bought my first car from Freddie Potek. He was a car dealer, car salesman. One day I was at home, and it was the winter of 76, probably right after the season ended. And I was in my house. A UPS driver came up to the house. It was Roger Nelson, a pitcher on our team. My mom sent me a box of stuff. So, because everybody had kids, you needed a job. You would play baseball for 6 months out of the year, and then the season ended. You'd maybe take 3 or 4 days off and then go to your real job. And thank God I didn't have to do that because I didn't have kids. I was single, and I bought a home for $40,000. And little did I know, 50-something years later, I'm still living in Kansas City, and I played for the Royals for 20 seasons. It's mind-boggling to me. I never thought I would leave California growing up in El Segundo, half a mile from the ocean, going to Manhattan Beach every day of the summer. I had 3 brothers that lived on the ocean there in Manhattan and Hermosa Beach. I'd go there and visit them, and I'm going, what am I living in Kansas City for? And I remember the first time it snowed. I mean, I didn't know how to drive in snow. And I had a Jeep at that time, and I went out and I was going like 6 miles an hour in Blue Springs and 2 inches of snow and slamming on the brakes and seeing how far I would skid. And to this day, I am not kidding you, I will not drive on the freeway if it snows. I will not. I refuse to drive on the freeway. There's a shopping center probably around a mile from my house. It's got a grocery store. It's got a little gas station. It's got some restaurants. When it snows and I'm in Kansas City, that's as far as I will drive.
Yeah.
And I'm 73 years old. I'm still afraid to drive in the snow.
Hey, there are a lot of people like that and stuff.
But what drives me crazy are that you get these guys, and my wife will drive in the snow. She was born in the Midwest, born in Wichita, so she's good at driving in the snow. But we're on the freeway, and these semis are coming by 70, 80 miles an hour. And it just scares the living hell out of me when that happens.
What could go wrong?
Yeah, I don't know.
The brakes are always good.
Yeah, right.
You come up to the Royals, and in the beginning, you're struggling a little bit, and then you approach their hitting coach, Charlie Lau. Tell me what he did for you and how he changed your game.
Well, I didn't go up to him. He came up to me. You know, he had his hands full, and I'd been in spring training with him for 2 years. And you know, as a minor league player invited to major league camp, he's not going to give you a lot of time. He's got a major league team that he has to worry about. And you know, I just watched him work. When Hal McRae came over from Cincinnati, Hal had a terrible time, and then all of a sudden Charlie Lau kind of fixed him, and Hal became a really good player. I saw the work that he did with Joe Rudy, but I never really approached Charlie. And when I came up in 1974, my first full season at the All-Star break, I was hitting 200 with like 1 home run and 14 RBIs at the All-Star break. And I had like 200 at-bats. And I remember he came up to me after the game and he said, "Hey, I want to sit with you on the flight back to Kansas City." It was the All-Star break. We had 3 days off. And so we just started talking. He said, "You know, I've watched you. You're hitting 200 on the nose. You haven't made one adjustment." And I said, "Charlie, this is the way I've hit my whole life. I don't know what adjustments to make. I really don't." In the minor leagues, you know, you had one coach and he was the manager. He'd throw batting practice, hit fungos. Back then, we didn't have hitting coaches, didn't have pitching coaches, didn't have infield coaches, didn't have iPads like they do now. We didn't have all that stuff that they have now. And we had a hitting coach named Mickey Vernon, who was a great guy, and I loved Mickey. But all he would do is come and lean on the cage and tell you how great Ted Williams was. And he didn't give a lot of instruction. And I think what he would do is he would just call the Royals. "Yeah, I was in San Jose watching George Brett play. Yeah, he's got a chance. He's a pretty good player. I don't know." But there was no instruction given. So I didn't know what adjustments to make. And all of a sudden, Charlie says to me, "I think you can play. I'm the only coach here that thinks you can play. You're not far removed from going back to Omaha, which is our AAA affiliate. I got some ideas. If you put forth the effort, I want to share them with you." And, you know, I had no place to go. And I think what he did, which was very smart, he waited till I hit rock bottom. Because, you know, even when I was the hitting coach in 2013 for my 2-month stint trying that stupid ass job, that's the worst job in baseball. Guys, they just don't listen. But when you're at rock bottom, you will listen. And so we changed everything. I used to stand like Yaz at home plate, my batting stance straight up in the air, kind of swung around my body, never got to my front side, couldn't hit the ball to left field if I tried. The only way I would hit a ball to left field is if I swung late on a fastball. All of a sudden, he moved me off the plate. He had got me to have some rhythm, a little movement, and I had a bad habit of wrapping my bat around my head, and then I had to go all the way this way to swing. And we couldn't find a place for me where I wouldn't wrap my bat around my head. And he said, "Put your bat on your shoulder right here." So I put it right here on my shoulder, and he said, "Now stride." And I could only do that. He said, "Okay, leave it there." And that's basically what I did for the rest of that season and the following season. But he moved me off the plate, and he told me never to hit a ball to the right side of the second baseman. He wanted me to stay through the ball and get extension through rather than swinging around it. So all of a sudden, we set a goal to hit 250. A month and a half later, now I'll remind you, I had 200 at-bats. A month and a half later, I'm at 250. And I come in the dugout, and all I'm doing is hitting ground balls and line drives up the middle and left field. That's all I'm doing. I haven't pulled a ball to the first baseman or second baseman. Maybe if I was fooled on a pitch, I would, but my intention was always to hit the ball from the second baseman where he was playing me to the left field line. And all of a sudden I come back to the dugout and I go, Charlie, we made it. We got it to 250. He said, screw 250. It's 260 now. Well, I got it to 260, 270, 280. I was at 292 with 4 games to go in the season, and Charlie Lau got fired. I went 1 for 11. I ended up hitting 282. But I'll never forget one game in that stretch. We were down 2-1 to the Boston Red Sox. And Louis Tiant was pitching. And you remember Louis, all the gyrations and all that stuff he was doing. And I came up in the bottom of the 8th inning, and there was a runner on base, and I hit a home run right down the right field line. And we gave us the lead 3-2. We went on to win the game 3-2. And I came back in the dugout and I said, Charlie, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to pull the ball. And he started laughing. He said, you're getting it. You're getting it. So basically, you can still pull the ball without trying to pull the ball because you just react. And nowadays, you don't see anybody. There's not 20 guys in the major leagues that know how to hit the ball the opposite way. Because I watch, everybody has the same swing. And all they're concerned is launch angle and exit velo. And they have the same swing regardless of where the pitch is. If it's down and away or up and in, they got the same swing. Where back before, we were more artists. You know, you could kind of manipulate the head of the bat, create the angle. I mean, you look at Tony Gwynn, you look at Wade Boggs, you look at Don Mattingly, you look at Rod Carew. And that's just a few of the guys that I played against that always won batting championships, you know. And what did we all have in common? We could hit the ball the opposite way.
Speaking of batting championships, 76, you win your first batting title. And then in 1980, you're flirting with 400. You end up batting 390. You and Tony Gwynn, I think, are the only people that have come close to 400 in the modern era, or since Ted Williams. Can that ever happen again? I just think the game's changed so much. It's impossible for someone to hit 400 now.
Well, it's almost impossible for guys to hit 300. I think 8 guys in the major leagues hit 300 last year, which is a little embarrassing. But I think it's harder now. I think it was harder for me than it was for Ted. And I'm not taking anything away from Ted Williams. But when Ted Williams played, you know, there were guys throwing 12, 13, 14, 15 inning complete games. You know, they were throwing 150 pitches a game. All of a sudden now, when I came up, you know, you're facing Goose Gossage, Raleigh Fingers, Sparky Lyle, and these guys were 2-inning guys. Nowadays, it's even worse. And I think the Royals started this back in 14 and 15. We had 4 closers. We had 4. We had Matson, we had Herrera, we had Tim Holland, and we had Wade Davis. If we had the game, if we were winning in the 5th inning, guess what? The game was over. Game was over. If we had a 2-run lead, 3-run lead in the 5th inning, the game was over. And so now it's even harder because you got guys that fill up the back of that bullpen. Starters only go 5 or 6 innings. They get their 100 pitch. Now they need good pitchers to preserve the lead. When, you know, it's the 6th, 7th inning, they bring in a guy that's making $10 million to pitch the 7th. They bring in a guy making $12 million to pitch the 8th and a guy making $25 million to pitch the 9th. So I think that's one reason why no one's ever going to get 400. There's too much good pitching out there now.
The opposite of that is batting 200 or less. And I thought I read something, and tell me if it's true or not, that you're the one that popularized the whole term, the Mendoza line.
No, I was the one that told Chris Berman about it. Chris had never heard it before. And Chris and I used to hang out a lot at All-Star games. After games, we'd always like to go out and have a few beers together. And so one day I kind of mentioned it to him, and he had never heard it. So he coined me as the guy that invented it. I don't know where I heard it, but I heard it from somebody else. But yeah, I'm not the guy that termed that. And I think Mario was pissed that he thought I termed it because in that 1980 season, he was the shortstop for the Seattle Mariners. There were 2 weeks to go in the season, and I'm still over 400. I went 1 for 11 in a 3-game series in Seattle. I remember Johnny Moses made a diving catch in right center, and they're 20 games out of first place, 25 games out of first place. They did not have a good team. And I got robbed. Mario Mendoza robbed me of 3 hits. My only hit was a home run, and I hit balls up the middle, and he would reach out, grab it, do a 360, throw off balance, bang, bang, play it the first time out. He did that 3 times to me. And Johnny Moses made a diving catch in right center field on a hard hit line drive. I went 1 for 11, ended up leaving there hitting about 390. And with those 4 or 5 hits, I would have still been over 400 with a week to go in the season. But Mario was pissed, and he showed it.
Revenge.
Yeah.
So in 1976, your best year in terms of 215 hits. What was it like going to the plate? It seemed like I was an Angels fan, so you never ever got out against that team. What was that feeling like, knowing you were just in the zone in that year?
Well, you feel pretty confident, and I think what happens is when you're swinging good and you're seeing the ball good, everything looks so easy. Everything is in slow motion, and when you're swinging the bat good, I always tell the Royals hitters this: your mind can only do one thing at a time. We watch ESPN, or you watch Fox News or CNN, whatever you watch. If you're watching the broadcast, you can't read the ticker, right? If you're reading the ticker, you don't understand what's going on with the voice coming over the TV. And when you're locked in fundamentally, all I did was focus on the ball, see the ball. And I was locked in. My fundamentals were solid that whole year. You come in after like that streak in 76 where you had those 6 hits or 6 games in a row with 3 or more hits. I think I had a 4-hit game in there also. But, the media would say, man, what's going on? You're 14 for 17 in this series. Well, I'm seeing the ball good. Why am I seeing the ball good? Because I have no distractions up here. Vice versa, when you're in a slump, you start thinking. Remember, your mind can only do one thing at a time. So if you're in the batter's box and a guy's throwing 95 miles an hour and you're saying, okay, I got to have my hands back, you're not going to see the ball. You're not going to see it because your mind can only do one thing at a time. So I was locked in so good with my hitting mechanics that I didn't have to think about anything else but see the ball. And again, that goes back to being able to hit a ball away. I'd just hit it to left field, a ball down the middle. That would be gap to gap. A ball in, I would pull. And when you don't have outside distractions about wondering about your fundamentals, the game's pretty easy. But you're not in that zone very often.
I was going to say, how does that happen? How are you able? People are yelling at you. You've got things going on. How are you able to mentally just shut everything out? That's an incredible skill.
Well, you don't even hear the crowd. You hear the crowd on the on-deck circle. You hear the crowd when you're walking up to the batter's box. Once you get in the batter's box and that guy starts his wind up, I don't think I heard anything. I mean, I was so focused and concentrating so much on seeing the ball that I didn't feel the elements. I didn't hear the elements. You didn't realize it was 120 on the turf. You didn't realize that you're playing a game in April. Well, I did. I never played good in April, especially when we started in Detroit, New York, anywhere where it was cold, being from Southern California. I mean, I think when I was in the batter's box, I was freezing and I never was able to focus. And I'm going, and I didn't wear batting gloves, which made it even worse, if you get jammed or hit one off the end. But, I was just able to focus and put all my attention in the task at hand. And my task at hand was basically to see the ball as long as I possibly could, because the longer you see it, the better you're going to hit it. The better you hit it, the higher your average is going to be. The higher your average is, the more money you're going to make. And that's all I thought about, It's all I thought about, seeing the ball. And hopefully my fundamentals. Now, that's one thing Charlie Lau and I did do. We would always take early batting practice. And I would do this the rest of my career, even after he went to the Red Sox or the Yankees and then the Chicago White Sox. But I would always take early batting practice every day, 3 o'clock on the road, 4 o'clock at home. Because in regular batting practice, and we didn't have indoor cages then, everything was done on the field. Now you go to Royal Stadium, you go to any major league stadium, they have hitting tunnels where some guys don't even take batting practice on the field. They just stay in the tunnels all day. Well, I wanted to make sure my swing was honed in before regular batting practice, because you only get maybe 20 swings in regular batting practice. You get a round of 7, you get a round of 5, you maybe get another round of 5, maybe 2, maybe 1, and that's it. Got 4 guys in your hitting group. So I never wanted to go into a game searching, because I wanted to be able to just focus on the ball, like I said earlier. So if my batting practice now, when I would take batting practice at 3 o'clock on the road, some days it might have been 20 swings, 15 swings. God, everything feels great. Some days might have been 30 or 40. What happened from one day ago? Why does it feel so different? And then as soon as my swing felt good and I got it, then I'd go in, play cards for a couple hours, come back out, and then, just pick up. But I would very rarely ever go into a game where I was searching for my swing during the game. I wanted to make sure that it was right where it should be prior to the game.
Well, I got to stick with that. No batting gloves. I know Vladimir Guerrero didn't wear batting gloves. What went into that decision? That's a key, big decision.
I tried them, and they were more like gardening gloves back in the 70s. They weren't like they are now. It's funny. I play golf probably 4 or 5 days a week. I can't swing a club without a golf glove. But I just never liked the feel of a batting glove. I just never liked it. And, you see old footage of me. I always had tape on my hands and Band-Aids and stuff, because I used pine tar, I used rosin, and, that stuff, it would just kind of get those little thin paper cuts in your fingers a lot. Calloused, my hands were so calloused, but I just never liked the feel of it. Now, granted, when it was, cold in the beginning of the season, I would wear them in batting practice. Just wear them in batting practice. And the game started, I could never use them. It just never felt comfortable.
Rookie cards of baseball, basketball, and football stars are iconic pieces of American history, and they have been outstanding investments over the last 50 years. Now, key issues of Sports Illustrated, professionally graded and encapsulated by CGC, have emerged as an exciting alternative to trading cards. ThePit.com is the leading online exchange for investment-grade sports magazines. General Manager Mark Humphreys offers Sports Illustrated first cover editions featuring stars like Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Derek Jeter, Ken Griffey Jr., and so many more. June 21st, 1976 had George Brett of the Kansas City Royals on the cover of Sports Illustrated for the first of 5 times he was on the cover. Mark Humphreys is here to tell us if this issue has gained any traction in the last 50 years. Mark, a great player, incredibly likable, and emblematic of baseball. 50 years ago, George Brett.
George Brett is a beloved baseball player, certainly in Kansas City, where he played his entire career, had over 3,000 hits, famously hit 390 in 1980, huge challenge to the 400 barrier, and was, of course, a first ballot Hall of Famer. This cover is fabulous because it is a head and shoulders portrait of him with his smile showing his enthusiasm for the game. It's very popular among collectors. There have already been 16 examples of this issue in newsstand, the more desirable form, graded by CGC. And remarkably, there have been 3 graded at the 9.4 level, which is an almost perfect issue. But to give you an idea of the value here, an 8.0, which is really a mid-grade issue, probably read several times with a few minor creases, but generally well preserved. The 8.0 sold for $500 earlier this year. I personally purchased a 9.0 for just under $1,000 earlier this year, or at least within the last 12 months. So I thought that was a very good investment or speculation on Brett. This is a fabulous cover. And to give you an idea of why I might be motivated to spend $1,000 on a magazine of George Brett. An interesting comparison can be made with his baseball cards, specifically his rookie card from the fabulous and colorful 1975 Topps set, which had a green border for George, and various colors for other players. And this card, the 1975 Topps number 228, is one of the most popular rookie cards in the hobby, and the values are interesting to consider. So baseball cards are graded on a 1 to 10 scale like magazines, but in baseball cards, the 10 is actually an achievable, if very unusual, situation. So currently, the industry leader PSA, Professional Sports Card Authenticator, has graded almost 20,000 of those George Brett cards from 1975, his rookie card. 19,854 to be exact. And of those, there have been 11, just 11 that have been graded at the perfect level of PSA 10 gem mint. The last sale was $158,600 in a heritage auction in December of last year. And since 2020, every sale of that card in gem mint PSA 10 has been in six figures, with the lowest being $117,000. These do not trade on eBay. At least one has not traded in gem mint since in the last 10 years. They trade at heritage auctions where high-end memorabilia is typically changes hands, or a couple other auction houses. 5 of the last 7 of those rookie cards have sold at heritage auction. And as I said, the last one was for $158,000. So in summary, the top 2 grades, which are just about 350 cards out of 20,000 rookie cards graded, are worth in total $5 million. That is the strength of the trading card market. And it's also why the magazine market is a fabulous alternative now, because the prices are nowhere near the same. And yet the magazines, as you can see from this 76, are in many cases delightful and really capture Brett's enthusiasm as well as any card ever has.
Only thepit.com offers competitive buy now and sell now quotes on graded magazines online, as well as many of the most popular modern PSA graded rookie cards, including Shohei Ohtani, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Nikola Jokic, and Steph Curry. Trade sports stars like stocks at thepit.com. We are talking with Hall of Famer George Brett, and for those people who were turning into NPR, I can tell you a few things he did. You may not be aware. Looking to get an update on climate change. Instead, we've got George Brett here. 3,154 hits, 13 times an All-Star. As Mark mentioned, 3 times a batting champion, and I love this. His third one was in his 18th season in 1990. Also, he part of that great 1985 Royals team that won a World Series. Those classes you had with the Yankees in the 70s, George, were some of the first baseball memories of my life. The 3-run blast, and I mean blast, that you had in the 9th inning that unfortunately Chris Chambliss kind of made it the second most important home run of that game. And then in 77, another game 5, first inning. Tell us what happened there.
Ron Guidry was pitching, and Hal McRae was on first base. I think I was hitting third, and I hit a line drive over Mickey Rivers' head in center field. Hal scored easily. I remember Paul Blair running over, backing up the play, fielded the ball perfectly, threw a perfect relay to their shortstop. I don't recall who that was. A really close play at third. I was going to third. I took one extra step, slid late, as I slid, I hit the bag and popped up and flew forward. And Greg Nettles took offense to that. As he fell back a little bit, he kind of kicks me in the face. And I reach down, I'm on all fours. I reach down and go, what the heck was that? And I get up and just throw a haymaker, knock his hat off. And the next thing you know, Chuck Hiller, our third base coach, Guidry, and Nettles, they had my arms. And so we just started, everybody just kind of, there was no more punches thrown. Everybody just kind of went down. The one thing that I remember most about that is Thurman Munson, the catcher. He came over and he slithered his way to the bottom of the pile, and he was laying on top of my head. And he said, George, it's Thurman. Don't worry, no one's going to take any cheap shots at you. And I thought that was pretty cool. Because when we played the Yankees, you remember Hal McRae slide, Greg Nettles went into second base. He didn't even slide. Lou Piniella, my old teammate, when I came up in 1973, September call-up, he was going from first to third on a base hit, and I'm standing 5 feet off the bag in Yankee Stadium down the left field line, and he slides straight into third base, but he's got his spikes pointed at me, trying to spike me. That's how that series was played. Reggie, when he slid into Freddie Patek and gave him 8 stitches in his leg, in his shin. I mean, it was stuff like that. That was the most physical baseball that I've ever been a part of. And it was fun. We started it, and just the way we played. But that's how we played. Hal McRae and I loved to break up double plays. That was the highlight of the game. I could go 3 hits. I could get 3 hits in a game and knock a shortstop or a second baseman on the ground and break up a double play, and I'd feel more proud of that than getting 3 hits. That's how much of an influence Hal McRae had on me. He showed me how to play, and then I said, well, if he can do it, I can do it. And when we got Hal McRae, guess where he came from? The Cincinnati Reds. Well, that's how they played. He played with Joe Morgan and Pete Rose and those guys. So Hal brought that mentality to our organization, and that's how we played for years. We were a very physical team, and we look forward to it. At that time, it wasn't dirty. Now you would be considered dirty. When we would slide, you remember Chase Utley when he slid into the shortstop for the Mets, I believe it was? Yep. And, oh, God, what a villain. I mean, that was a calm slide for us. That was nothing. That was nothing. We would try to knock guys into left field. No. We would slide and roll. And, oh, God, I got pictures of me hitting Carew, me hitting Bucky Dent, me missing Bert Campaneris. Somebody had these old pictures and they sent them to me. And I'm going, oh, my God, I love that. That just shows the way that I played the game of baseball, you know.
Yeah, I think it was the 72 series that McRae took out Dick Green.
Oh, yeah. Didn't even slide when he was with the Reds.
Yeah. And I don't think we ever saw Greeny again. In this instance, though, all hell breaks loose, and yet it's a deciding playoff game, and nobody gets ejected.
No, they didn't. The umpires, after everybody was kind of pushed back to normal, Whitey Herzog came over and he said, okay, the umpires just told me, you say one more word, you're gone. You say one word to Nettles, you go over and even look at him, you're gone. And then he came over and he said, I don't know what Whitey told you. You say one word, I'm throwing you out of the game. And they told Nettles the same thing. And then, Greg and I were great friends. I mean, I had a lot of respect for Greg as a player, playing in New York. I don't know if I could have played in New York with the media and all that stuff, and playing for George. I don't know if I could have played for him. You hit 500 for a week and then you go 0 for 8 and he's MFing in the paper all the time, And I don't know if I would have had that mentality to deal with that. But Greg and I represented the same shoe company back then, Spot Built, which later became Saucony. And they had me and Greg, my brother Ken, Jim Rice. Oh, God, they had O.J. Simpson was on their advisory board, and Reggie McKenzie, Rick Roby, a basketball player. And they would take us to the National Sporting Goods Convention every year. And the Fisher family that owned it out of Boston we'd have golf tournaments and stuff. And Greg and I were great friends. After that game in 1977, in 1978, we had or Spot Built, they put up these posters in Athlete's Foot and all the sporting goods chains. They would have, you go to the shoe department, they have posters of players wearing different brands of shoes. And they had the picture of me just like this, landing the punch in Nettles' head right here. and they circled our shoes, and then we were both wearing Spot Built. And the caption on the bottom was, "At least they agree on one thing." I wish I had one. I really do wish I had one.
So I don't think you've ever done an interview where someone doesn't bring up the pine tar incident, and I know you're probably sick of answering it. But
No.
the one thing that stands out to me about that whole thing was your reaction, the media attention that you got. I don't know if baseball reverses their decision and credits you with the go-ahead two-run homer and allows you to finish that game without that kind of a reaction. Tell me about what happened and where you were when they finished the game a month later.
Well, I hit the home run off Goose, and I came back, and I saw Billy when I crossed home plate. I think I saw him, and he was out there, and I'm going, well, what's he doing out there? I had no idea. And Greg Nettles has told me, hey, we knew back in Kansas City a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, your bat was illegal, but you didn't get a hit in a situation that was going to be game changing, so we didn't do anything. They're not going to call a 2-out base hit to center, with nobody on, no RBI. They're going to say, we're going to wait for something dramatic to happen. Well, that bat was a really good bat. It was an 8-grainer, probably the best bat I've ever had, which means the thicker the grain, the stronger, the harder the wood. Well, I must have used that bat for a long time. And I always ordered my bats unfinished. A lot of people have a little resin on top of it or something shiny on it. Mine were just raw wood, and it was ash bat, and ash breathes a lot. So a lot of times I'd put the pine tar on, and then it would start growing in the roots of the bat, and it would just go up there, and my bat was dirty. It was filthy. Little did I know that there was a rule that you couldn't have more than 18 inches of pine tar on your bat. Well, that bat went to 23. And they called me out for using an illegal bat. And I remember sitting in the dugout next to Vida Blue, and Vida and I were just bullshitting, and Frank White was kind of sitting next to me and next to Vida, and he says, hey, they might be calling you out for using too much pine tar. I go, Frank, I've never heard of that rule. What? And he said, well, they did it to John Mayberry a few years ago. And I'm going, or in 74 maybe. And Frank was in the big leagues and I wasn't at that time. And I go, God, I've never heard of that. And sure enough, right? And I said, if they call me out for using too much pine tar, I'll run out there and I'll kill one of those SOBs. And as soon as I said that, Timmy McClelland's looking in the dugout for me, and he points at me and goes, you're out. Well, I just said I'd run out of the field and kill somebody. and sure enough, I ran out on the field, and what made it bad? I mean, obviously I was going to do my best Earl Weaver or whoever impersonation. Joe Brinkman, who was an umpire, comes up from behind me and grabs me and starts pulling me away. I don't know who it is, and I'm just trying to get away because they kind of choke me and choking me. And finally, everything calms down. Hauser's out there throwing his hat, going crazy. Gaylord Perry tries to steal the bat. Are you aware of what happened?
Yeah.
Gaylord Perry goes up, and that was his last year, I think. Gaylord, when he pitched his last game, or he won his 300th game in Seattle, he was a memorabilia guy before memorabilia was memorabilia. So he goes out and throws a nine inning complete game in Seattle for his 300th win. He wears 9 different jerseys, changed the jersey every inning, and he signed them. This is a jersey I wore when I got my 300th win. There's 9 of them. So Gaylord's seeing dollar signs. He's going, I want that bat. So he wrestles it out of Tim McClelland's hand. And the next thing you know, I think it was Steve Ranko ends up with the bat. And Steve's sitting there going, oh my God, he just takes off running with it up the locker room. And if you watch the end of the video, you'll see security guards and stuff. everybody just starts running from the dugout up to the locker room, and they confiscate the bat before it gets into the locker room. And Lee McPhail gets his hands on it. John Sherholtz, our general manager, then protests the game. He and Dean Taylor wrote a very convincing letter. They did rule in my favor, in the best interest of baseball. The home run stands. So they have my bat. 10 days later, I'm in Detroit, and Emory Air Freight ships it to me. That's who I guess Major League Baseball used, Emory Air Freight. And so sure enough, I clean up my pine tar bat. I put a red line. I'm using the bat. I got a red line where 18 inches is. I'm not going to go over 18 inches anymore. And I was going to keep using the bat. And Gaylord Perry goes, George, what are you doing? You can't use that bat. If you break it, it's worth nothing. So I said, okay. So next thing you know, well, now it's in Cooperstown. I would love to doctor it back up the way it was. The way it was. I mean, I got a bat here.
Great.
I got a bat here that this is a bat I used in 1993.
Wow.
Look at that.
Oh, yeah.
Now, there's the label. That label goes all the way to here. It's an inch below that. So that's 18 inches. That was 1993, and all that's illegal pine tar. They didn't even care back then. But look at that. Now, yeah, I got this bat because I'm not a collector. I said that earlier. One day, Mike Bodderker came over to the house. He lives in Kansas City. And he says, George, I got a bat that you gave me in 1993 or last year. I'd love for you to, if you signed it for me. I go, yeah, Mike, I'd be honored. He comes over. I didn't have one bat of mine that I ever used. And I'm sitting there and I'm playing with this thing, and you can see my fingerprints. I mean, you could get a real fingerprint off the bottom of this. My fingerprints are there. And so I'm looking at it. I'm going, God dang it, I should have saved some more stuff. He said, well, you keep it. I go, well, it's your bat. I said, well, here's what I'll do, Mike. I will give you, every year I go to Cooperstown since 99, and I've given a couple of them away for charity, but every year we go, every player signs a bat that's there. So I had bats with Ted Williams' name on it, Bobby Dorr, Yogi Berra, Whitey Ford, and I had probably 20 of them. And I said, Mike, pick one out and I'll trade you. So I gave him a bat with 65 Hall of Fame signatures on it. And I got my bat from 1993. How great's that?
Nice.
That's a good trade.
Beautiful.
That's a good trade.
That is a really good trade.
Thanks for putting that bat up there too. That's awesome.
But this is 10 times worse than the bat I was using in the pine tar game.
Yeah, wow.
Right. But
so Emory Air Freight ships the bat to me. Well, all of a sudden I get the Royals say, hey, you got to call this guy or my brother who represented me. Hey, you got a chance to do a commercial for Emory Air Freight. They want to pay you. Yeah, I said, great. So I ended up doing the commercial for them. I think they paid me $100,000 back then. And I did a commercial. It took 2 hours to shoot. And basically the gist was I was taking batting practice, and a guy in an Emory Air Freight uniform comes up with a box and says, here, I think this belongs to you. And I ended up taking it out. Oh, hey, my bat. Oh, great. Thanks. That's fantastic.
But that game was played, that pine tar game was played on July 24th, and they finished the game on August 18th. But you're not there, correct?
No,
I
was kicked out. I was going to go, and our manager just said, there's no reason for you to go. There's going to be a media fiasco there. Don't even go. Larry Amici, Don Amici's son, was our TWA travel rep. He flew everywhere with us. And because we always chartered TWA flights. And so he and I, when the players got off the plane and got on buses to go to the stadium, he and I went to a little Italian restaurant right by Newark Airport. And we watched the game sitting at the bar, having some pasta and a glass of wine, and watched the game on a little black and white TV about that big behind the bar.
Did one of the customers go, hey, aren't you George Brett? What are you doing here?
Yeah.
That sounded like a commercial.
Yeah.
Billy Martin was the guy that called the bat, the illegal bat.
Right.
Have you ever did you ever get a chance to talk to him about that?
No, I never said 2 words to Billy. He didn't like me and I didn't like him. We really didn't like each other. Didn't really like each other. Yeah.
Well, he had that way about him.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
could rub
very
the
much.
opponents the wrong way. If you played for him, I think if I played for him, I think I would have loved him. But playing against him, I didn't like him at all.
What was it about him that you didn't like?
Well, I said something in 1976 before the playoffs, and it was our first playoffs. I'm 23 years old. And they said, hey, you're in the first playoffs playing the Yankees. I said, yeah, I really want to beat them because they traded my brother. He was on the Red Sox. He was on the Yankees then, and they traded him. So that's all I said. Then the first inning of that game, and it was just screaming at me from the dugout. Your brother sucks. You're just going crazy. And I'm going, I want to beat you anyways, but I really want you to beat you because you traded. Now, I wouldn't have ever said that if my brother was on the team. Yeah, I want the Royals to win. But he was just relentless that whole series, screaming at me the whole time.
But then you move on and you get back to, 1985. The key to your career, the greatest thing happened, you win the World Series.
Yeah.
How did it feel to bring a World Series to Kansas City?
Well, it was really special. I grew up in LA, and the Dodgers had won a lot of World Series. The Lakers would win, the NBA championship. I never went to parades. I don't even know if they had parades back in the 60s, But, you heard about all this stuff when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl here, with Lenny Dawson. I wasn't even in Kansas City then. But, they don't do parades when you come in second. You have some people will be at the airport for you. That's it. But when you won that World Series, when we won that World Series, I didn't care. It made me realize, it really made me realize that you could have been the 25th player on the team, a September call-up. You're the clubhouse kid. You're the guy that shines the shoes. You're the bat boy. You're the ball boy down the left field line. You're the assistant trainer. You work in the ticket office. Everybody had the exact same feeling. It didn't matter who you were. Brett Saberhagen was the MVP of the World Series. I had just as good a feeling about winning the World Series as he did, and how it brought our team together and how it brought our city together. We had to wait 30 years to do that again. Now, and I was in that parade also. The Chiefs have won, 3 Super Bowls in the last 5 years? I've never gone to a parade. There's too many people. I don't like people. I don't even go to Chiefs games anymore because I don't like to be around 78,000 people that are drunk, and just, they're not all drunk, but you see some obnoxious people. Yeah. I think the last game I went to, my kids go. I have 3 boys. I gave them my tickets. I've been a season ticket holder for 40 years probably. But I gave my tickets to them, and they go every game. I take them to Vegas every year when the Chiefs play in Vegas. And we'll go there and play golf for 2 days, go to the Chiefs game. We'll have wonderful dinners, gamble a little bit, and then come home, and it's great. But it's just amazing what winning a world championship does for a city. I never imagined it, but it was the wildest thing I ever could have imagined in my life. And how much pride the city has. It just makes the city so proud. Even if you're not a Royal fan, you're happy for the city.
And I know what he went through was very tough after this, but how important was Dick Howser to the success of that team?
Well, I think he was good. I played for Whitey Herzog from 74, 75 to 79. Great manager. Maybe, I think, the best manager I ever had. But Whitey had a temper. And when things got under his skin, he let everybody know about it, and wasn't afraid to call people out. Dick Howser was the opposite. We had a young team back then. We had Saberhagen, Gubazaw, Danny Jackson, Charlie Liebrandt, Buddy Black. We had Buddy Biancalana. We had Pat Sheridan. We had a lot of young guys, and he was he never raised his voice. He had a saying, hey, things aren't going well right now. Piss on it, we'll get it done. I believe in you guys. And he'd always say, piss on it, we'll get it done. Buddy Black and I still, whenever we see each other, piss on it, we'll get it done. We start giggling, But I think he was a perfect guy for that style of team. A young team kind of coming into their own. making the playoffs in '84, getting swept by Detroit. But Detroit started that season off 35-5, I believe.
Yeah.
And we lost 2 one-run ball games to them in a 3-game series. Saberhagen was 20 years old. Gubazov was 21. Danny Jackson, 22. Those were 3 of our starting pitchers. So, I think Dick just did a great job using his personality, and he was always like that. He just never seemed to get that excited. He never got that excited when things went good, and he didn't get that pissed off when things were going bad.
You beat the Cardinals in '85, the I-70 series. I know you played all 21 seasons there in Kansas City, but I think I read where there was a time in the early '80s where there were some rumors about you being traded, and it was to the Cardinals. Do you ever think about what your life could have been like had you not spent the entire time in Kansas City?
Well, it was a little disagreement the owner of the Royals, Ewing Kauffman, and I had about a contract that I had signed. And years earlier, he told me I had Jerry Kapstein as an agent when a lot of people didn't have agents. Jerry was the first real big guy to come on the scene, and he was doing my brother Ken. And my brother Ken said, "You should have this guy represent you." And the Royals never had an agent, a player. You have an agent before, and Ewing Kauffman and Joe Burke said, "You don't need an agent. We're family," and stuff. And so I got rid of him. I did a contract. And there was some stipulation in there about some stock options that I had. In the meantime, I signed another 5-year contract. And the agreement was that these stock options are mine as long as I'm with the Royals. Well, it didn't say that in the contract because I didn't have an attorney. So I signed another 5-year contract. I think the stock options are still mine in Marion Labs. And as a result of that, I get a call when my first contract expires. I was in Las Vegas at a fight, and I get a call from my secretary, Joni. Ewing Kauffman needs to talk to you. And he basically said, "Your stock options are up." I said, "No, they're not. My stock, I signed another 5-year contract. That's not what it's written in the contract. It didn't say as long as you are with the Royals." Now, if I had an agent, it would have said as long as I'm with the Royals. So my stock options were pulled. And that's when the poop hit the fan, and we had a little disagreement. And I was at the World Series that year. I think it was '82 when they won. And I had a good friend of mine in St. Louis, John Ray, who worked for Marriage Travel. And he had season tickets. He knew everybody at the stadium. And I'm sitting behind home plate wearing a Cardinal hat. And everybody's going crazy. And Whitey Herzog, Mac's manager, is over there. And he's already cleaning house. He's already got rid of Templeton and Hernandez and everybody. And so, I was up in the stadium club wearing a Cardinal hat bartending during the World Series games, and everybody, "Hey, we want you to come to," I said, "Believe me, I want to come. Thank God the Royals never traded me, because I think one of the coolest things about my career is it's the same as 2 guys that I really looked up to when I was a kid, Brooks Robinson and Carl Yastrzemski. You look at the back of their baseball cards and it says Red Sox the whole way. It says Orioles the whole way. And mine says Royals the whole way. And I think that's the coolest thing ever. You see guys, a lot of guys go in the Hall of Fame and they go, "Oh yeah," they list the teams you played for. These guys are Hall of Famers. Some of them played for 6, 7 teams. Now, why? They're Hall of Fame players. Why did they switch teams so often, But you get the Cal Ripkens, the Tony Gwynns, Derek Jeters of today, and me, and Brooks and those guys. Robin Yount, another guy. Nolan Ryan, maybe, he's got more records than anybody in baseball, I believe. And he played for like 5 teams. I just don't think it's right. I think the Royals showed a lot of trust in me and were very loyal to me. Paid me top dollar. I wish other organizations would treat players of my caliber, future Hall of Famers, the same way. Because to me, I would never consider myself a gun for hire. Never would.
But they screwed you on the stock options.
They
Yes.
did. They did. But the new owner, Everett Fogelman, came around, and when I signed my last contract, I did it with him. He was a 50% owner, and we did a contract, and he had to get it approved by Mr. Kaufman. And Mr. Kaufman said, no, that's too much money. So he put a few things in there that made it worthwhile for me to stay with the Royals. And you know what's crazy? I signed with them in 1971, and I'm still employed by them. I'm vice president of baseball operations. I don't know what my job is. And I think when you don't know what your job is, you got a pretty good freaking job.
Yeah.
But I do go to spring training every year, suit up. I offer my advice. I sit in the dugout. You know, I have players to my house for dinner. I'll go out with the players for dinner on occasion, and just give them my 10 cents worth on baseball, our team, and try to share stories of what it was like when I played.
You know, everyone knows you, the great hitter you were, but in 1985, you won a Gold Glove. What did that mean to you to get that?
Well, when I came up, I started hitting. I was making probably 25 to 30 errors a year. A lot of them were throwing. Buck Martinez, a good friend of mine, to this day. He and I lived together. I was best man in his wedding when he got married back in the 70s. He made a comment one night. He said, George, you keep hitting like this, you'll be the only player alive with 3,000 hits and 3,000 errors. I'm going, well, I always looked at it like this. If I let in a run with an error, I better at least score one or drive one in. I always wanted to be at least an even or a plus player. I never wanted to be a negative. And sometimes when I'd make an error in the first or second inning and let in 2 runs, sure enough, I would always drive in 2 or score 2 to at least be even that day, like they do in the NHL. And that was always my goal, never to let in more than I scored or drove in. But again, now we have infield coaches. We didn't have infield coaches back then. All they would do is hit you fungos. I wish I would have had some instruction. I knew what I was doing wrong, but I didn't know how to fix it. And finally, after from 74 to 84, 10 years in the big leagues, I figured it out. I figured out how to throw a ball in the vicinity of the first baseman and not bounce it and not throw it over his head or wide left. And as a result, won a Gold Glove. And that was a big thrill because, you know, it was always, I think the biggest knock on me was I wasn't a good defensive third baseman, which I wasn't, and I'll admit it, but I got better and better and better by working and working and working.
Questions fly, lightning strikes as answers try, buzzers wreak chaos in the air, trivia time.
I think you might know this, but I'll ask it anyway. But I had one really quick thing to say. I looked at your IMDb page. It says Swedish hockey player on Miracle on Ice. Were you in the movie Miracle on Ice as a Swedish hockey player?
Well, I was out after they won the 80 Olympics. I was a buddy of mine's family, the Obradovich family, owned Julie's restaurant. And they were filming that movie right across the street at the LA Coliseum, at the Sports Arena, which is right across the street from USC. And his brother-in-law or cousin had something to do with the movie. So we just went over to watch. And the next thing you know, I'm talking to the guy and I'm going, and he said, hey, you want to be in the movie? I go, what are you talking about? He says, yeah, we're going to do a shot from way up above. And it's a face-off scene. So sure enough, I put on a Swedish hockey uniform and I'm sitting there on the ice and I kind of down in the face-off, and they were just doing a shot from up above. They dropped the puck, and that was it. That's the only shot.
Okay.
I thought you were great.
Yeah. I can't believe I didn't get an Oscar.
Right. I never knew you were Swedish.
No, you know what? I'm half Norwegian. My mother's Norwegian. So
there you go.
Yeah.
So there's still time.
Yes. So, but here's your trivia question. So around 2013, there's a song that comes out by the New Zealand artist Lord, and it's called Royals. True or false? And I have a feeling you already know the answer. The song title is actually inspired by you.
Yes, I knew that. I went to Vegas to meet Lord. MLB sent a camera crew, and they invited me to go down there, and I met her. She was performing, doing a concert there, and she saw a picture when she was little. or she wasn't even born yet, obviously, but I guess she looks through National Geographics, and they were doing a story on Kansas City in National Geographic magazine. And it was one of those days where the players had to go sit out on the field and people came by and took pictures. And you feel like a monkey in a zoo. You're just sitting there and smile, and I got tired of doing it. It was a Sunday day game, and I said, screw this, I'm done. I had to play that day. And so I had to walk. I'm walking through the terminal, and it might have been ball day that day too. And as I'm walking through the terminal in my uniform, I just get inundated with all these people, and they putting balls in my face. And a photographer took a picture of that, and you could see Royals on my jersey. And she was looking through that National Geographic years and years and years and later. And supposedly that inspired her to see this person with all these fans. And she wrote the song, I Want to Be Royal. And that's what inspired the song. And she was really a nice lady, by the way.
Well, we won't sing it for you, so you got that going for you.
Yeah.
George, in what's baseball been around over 100 years, you are at least rated by the second greatest third baseman ever. Not bad for a kid from El Segundo. When you hear things like that, how does that make you feel?
Unbelievable. I mean, I always tell Schmitty I'm better than he is. I got two things on Mike Schmidt. No, my career batting average, he struck out more, he hit a lot more home runs, won a lot more Gold Gloves. But did you know in the 1971 draft, I did not know this until Mike, of course, sent me a copy of his book. And I was reading it, and he's talking about the day he got drafted. He was the 30th player taken in the draft in 1971 out of Miami of Ohio. I was the 29th player taken. How's that?
Wow. Dang.
Now, all of a sudden, I get to Cooperstown, and Mike and I had the exact same amount of RBIs. About 5 years go by, and I get a call from Jeff Idelson, I believe, and he says, hey, you won't believe this. We found one more RBI that wasn't accounted for. I called Mike Schmidt on the phone. Mike and I have become great friends. And I said, hey, Schmitty, how many RBIs did you have in the big leagues? He said, same as you. I said, no, I got one more. He says, no, you don't. I said, yeah, I just got a call. They said they found one more RBI that they didn't know about. He says, how much did you pay him, you son of a bitch?
That's great.
Oh, but it is great. And, you get Beltray, and you get, Brooks Robinson, my favorite, and Chipper Jones and all those guys. But, even to be in the Hall of Fame is a great thrill, and to be always in that conversation of, top 2, top 3, top 4 third baseman ever to play the game. I mean, it makes you feel really special. It really does.
I was thinking, you've been retired now for about 32 years.
Yeah, I know it.
I don't know why you retired, because you were actually playing well. Did it go by too quick? Does it seem when you look back now, go, man, it seems like I just started yesterday?
Yeah,
now
well, it's my life since then has gone by quick. I mean, I remember my last game. I remember flying home. I remember, I had one kid when I retired, he was about 8 months old, and now I have 3, and they're all in their 30s. And it's just, I became a grandfather 2.5 months ago for the first time, which is pretty awesome. And it's, the career went by really fast, but I think post-career has gone by that fast too. I was telling somebody the other day, Avron Fogelman, I was talking to him, the guy that bought half the team from the Ewing Kauffman. He used to own half the Royals. And we were talking, he called me on my birthday, and we were talking, and you still going back to Cooperstown? I go, yeah. And I go, Avron, it's really kind of funny. When I got there, I was 45 years old. I retired at 45 years later, you go. And, I was an early riser because I had 3 kids. I had 3 kids under 3 at one time. And I just needed an hour of peace and quiet before they got up. And so I've been getting up pretty much since then at 6 o'clock every day. And I would go down to the lobby at 6, and there would be Yogi Berra, Whitey Ford, some of the older Hall of Famers, and me. And I'd sit there and have coffee with them and listen. I just listen. Avron told me, he called me back because I said, I don't know how old Yogi was in 1999. Yogi's 73 years old in 1999, and I'm calling him old. And I used to play on Yogi's golf in the Scramble tournament. Yogi and I were on the same team every year. Well, guess what? I'm 73. So these young guys that are coming into the Hall of Fame now, they're going, yeah, those old guys like Brett, but I don't feel old.
I know.
I don't feel old. I'm playing golf today. I'm having a blast. I worked out before we did this conversation. I'm holding an old bat in my hand. I'm feeling great. And it's just hard to realize that 73 years has gone by fast. And my life is basically 3 segments: youth till graduation, being a professional baseball player for those years, and then being an ex-baseball player. So I got 3 segments, and they've all gone by real fast.
From where I'm sitting, you look like you still got a few more hits than you. You don't look 70.
I just can't run. I can't run, and I got a bad shoulder. I got bad knees and bad shoulders, and I'm still pissed at the Royals. I played 20 years on AstroTurf, and then the last year after I retired in '93, they moved the fences in 10 feet and put in real grass. Thank you.
Because of those stock options.
Yeah, no, I'm over that. I'm still pissed about them about the AstroTurf. My knees are bad knees. I cannot get in the catcher stance.
Hey, you mentioned your brother Ken earlier when we were talking. I know all your brothers were important to you, but how important was Ken to your success as a ball player?
Well, I think he gave me hope as a youngster that, I don't know many people that say I'm going to be a Major League Baseball player and really believe it. But when your brother becomes one, you think it's possible, So I think in high school, I'm going, well, if he can do it, I can do it. And all 3 of my other brothers played professional baseball. 2 of them didn't make it to the major leagues. But when I got drafted, it was my brother he was my biggest supporter. I mean, there was one time I almost quit, and he basically talked me out of it. He talked me out of it because I was struggling so bad in the minor leagues. I was playing in AAA, and I came back through my helmet. All of a sudden, it ricocheted up and hit somebody. And the next day I go out and I'm trying to play catch. Nobody would play catch with me. Nobody even talked to me. So I said, screw you guys. I went and took my uniform off, went back to the hotel, called my brother, said, I'm quitting. He said, no, you're not. He said, you're going to go back and you're going to apologize to your manager. You're going to apologize to everybody on that team. And that's what I did. So, no, he was very instrumental. And the coolest thing is when I got my 3,000th hit, he was a broadcaster for the Angels. I got my 3,000th hit against the Angels in Anaheim. And he was on the mic. Obviously, he didn't call it. He was doing the color. But to have him there working and then having some beers with him afterwards was a lot of fun.
I know the balls behind you represent, all the greats, but do you ever just think like when we first started, Reggie Jackson called you. I mean, you are friends with the Reggie Jacksons of the world. What is that like?
Well, I never was playing against him. I hated Reggie. I didn't like Mike Schmidt. I didn't like Mike at all. I was jealous of Mike. I played against Mike in probably 13 All-Star games, and we won 1 game. We played against him in 1 World Series. He won the World Series. I didn't like him. I didn't like Reggie. I didn't like a lot of guys that I have baseballs from up there. Goose Gossage. I mean, God, Goose and I hated each other. Now we're best friends. Play golf together in Arizona. We have mutual friends from Arizona. He lives in Colorado, and every year in Cooperstown, I mean, Goose and I hang out together. But it is cool. When MLB did a documentary on me 2 years ago, or I think it was 2 years ago, and they interviewed some of my adversaries when I was playing, the Reggies, Robin Yount was interviewed. Let me see, Robin. Some of my old teammates were interviewed. Schmitty was interviewed. But to hear what these guys say about you it's special. And I very truly consider Mike Schmidt a very, very dear friend. And I saw a text, because I'm on my iPad now, and when Reggie called, he must be in town because a little tweet, or not a tweet. What do they call those things? Text. A text came across the top, and there was I could see a little schedule. He says, "Hey, if you're free today, feel to stop by. I'm going to be here." So he's somewhere in Kansas City doing something, and I got a Dayton Moore thing at 4:30, and I got a golf game at 11:30. So I don't know if I'm going to have time to do anything, but I'll call him. I'll at least call him, and who knows?
I hope you let all the people know in Philadelphia that you have one more RBI than that
Schmitty, yeah,
loser Schmidt. We started this show, George, for one reason, and for me, it's because I want one last time to see Dennis Leonard get a grounder and have you turn a 5-4-3 double play with Frank White making the pivot at second. I want one last time to see you put one over the fountains at Kauffman Stadium off my boy Rick Langford. And I want one more time seeing you blast Nettles in the head. We live for guys like you, and we just want to thank you for an entire generation of fans who grew up watching you just be you. George Brett, thank you so much for coming on Past Our Prime.
You got it, guys. And I am past my prime.
Thank you so much.
Okay, guys. Have a good day.
Let's talk a little more baseball, shall we? Butch Weiniger, the youngest player in the majors at 20. He's expected to start the season in the minors, Bill, but instead he just started hitting.
He did. And one thing I loved about Butch Weiniger, they said that a couple years earlier, he had been writing fan letters to Orioles' Jim Palmer while attending high school. And then in his first major league at bat against Palmer, he hit a home run. What a way. I just thought Butch Weiniger was one of I knew him because he finished second in the Rookie of the Year voting for Fidrich. He was just a good hitter. Got injured late in his career, but he could swing the bat.
Yeah, Weiniger never drinks, never smokes, never curses, doesn't chase women, doesn't even go to PG-rated movies. His one admitted vice is gambling, which he tried once in Reno, lost $10, and, quote, almost died. So, yeah, had a nice little career there in Minnesota. You're right. I think he came on in a splash and was never quite this good again, but still had some fine seasons in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Made the minimum of $16,000 and said, shoot, that's a lot of money for sure. And he meant it sincerely. So, yeah, Butch Weiniger, a name from the past. Another catcher from back in the day, Carlton Fisk, had a shouting match with manager Darrell Johnson, missed the team bus the next day and was benched, while teammates Fred Lynn and Rick Burleson sarcastically chanted, "Goodbye Fenway" on the way to the airport. So this goes back to those contract disputes they were having. They would eventually all play for a few more years in Boston, but eventually they would all be shown the door. Lynn and Burleson to the Angels and Fisk to the White Sox. People always forget this, that Carlton Fisk played more games in his career as a White Sox player than as a Red Sox player.
Yeah.
Just more meaningful games in Boston.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. People don't realize how players played on other teams. They always associate with one team, and that goes for Reggie Jackson because we all think of him as a Yankee, and people might remember he began with the A's and he played for the Angels, in the '80s, but people forget he was with the Orioles for a very short time.
One season.
And yep, and they talk about in the baseball issue how Orioles manager Earl Weaver didn't know what to do because his team had been outscored 48-22 in a series. So, and they had fallen from second to fifth place. They had, I think, lost 8 in a row. So Reggie Jackson spoke up after the last loss to the Royals, to George Brett's team. And it was a game in which his teammate Lee May was hit twice by pitches. And Jackson said, if the Orioles pitchers did not hit somebody tomorrow, then I'll walk off the team. But first I'll fight them, so I get whipped. I don't care. So what? So he had enough.
Yeah. I wonder what
And I
happened.
think that there's a Sports Illustrated say where there's a picture of Reggie on the cover in an Orioles uniform,
Yep.
which is like I said, people completely forget that he spent 1 year, and not at the end of his career, but in the middle of his career with
Yeah.
the Orioles.
Yeah. Like, one season, then became a free agent, and then signed in 77
Yep.
with the Yankees, and ended up having a pretty good World Series that year.
Oh yeah.
Who knows what he did, but yeah.
Yeah. The Expos were falling apart. Injuries, a 6-player slump, and a concussion caused by a collision between two of their own players. So manager Carl Cool made the big move. This is what you always do. You lift the ban on mustaches. So
Yes.
they promptly won a game 9-4 because those mustaches, they will really prevent you from winning if you don't have one. So it was a good move by the manager. Another good
I,
move, Bill. Randy Jones.
Yeah, most people, when they went out to a stadium back in the day, Tom Seaver, Nolan Ryan, Jim Palmer, they flocked to see those guys. Not always Randy Jones, who threw about 80 miles an hour, but the Padres fans did. When he pitched, 32,000, well, I'll say close to 33,000 fans went to see him. But when Jones wasn't pitching, less than 19,000 were in the stands.
I believe that.
But I'm saying back in the day, Randy Jones and at one point Dave Winfield were the only reasons to go to the Padres.
Yeah, and Jones, as we've talked about, just for a very short time,
Yep.
not only
Years.
seasons wise, but game wise. I mean, those 33,000 people better be in their seats when the game starts because that ain't going to be a fast game. That's not going to be a long game.
Yep.
He had a scoreless walk-free streak of 46 innings, so he was in a serious groove 50 years ago.
But remember, he sometimes would pitch games, they're like 80 pitches and the game's over.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like he'd even give you a long time to sit in the stands.
No. Another guy who was kind of having a rough go of it back then, Lou Brock, slumping at 270 after 15 years in the majors. Tried batting right-handed for the first time in his career. I never heard about that. Struck out.
And so it wasn't that good.
No. Hey, before we get to the end here, and for the record, we got another former past guest of ours, Marty LaQuarrie, who's having a rough time of it, Bill, but still making a go of it.
Yeah, he's got a hammy injury. And when you're running, that could be pretty bad. But he's in a race, and he ends up finishing in second behind the guy in front by, I think it was like 20 minutes or a half hour. But all I kept thinking was, you're running this marathon and you only finish a half hour back and you have a hamstring injury. Yeah. That means he's still going faster than 95% of the people in the world with that injury.
Yeah. I mean, I have yet to finish I started a marathon like 27 years ago, but my hamstring's been giving me trouble ever since. So
yes.
I haven't crossed the finish line just yet.
We got to make that happen.
I've never had a hamstring issue.
You're our best hope for that to happen, Bill.
Yeah, no, it's true. I can still, run when needed. Yeah, that'd be fun. I mean, I've done, many of those, but
you've done the half one.
I don't know if I could do a marathon.
You set your mind to it, and
that's true.
And your hamstring will follow.
That's true.
You heard it here. For the record.
For the record, Mark, take us to the NBA draft from back then.
I will, because in 1976 we have the NBA draft, and there's a trade. Okay, so I think Atlanta sends the number 1 pick over to Houston, and they use that on John Lucas, and then they go through the players, that went in the draft, including Scott May from Indiana. We talked a lot about Scott May having Kent Benson and Bobby Wilkerson on the show. But so I went back to look at that 1976 draft and to see, who made and who did it. So John Lucas was taken 1, ended up with Houston, and had a decent career. Scott May went 2 to the Bulls. Richard Washington from UCLA went to the Kansas City Kings, which, for you guys that don't know, that's the Sacramento Kings now. But number 6, Adrian Dantley. He ended up went to Buffalo, but that's not really where he played, but he had a good career.
Yep.
Robert Parrish was the 8th overall pick, but he didn't go to the Celtics. He went to the Golden State Warriors. So, there's a trade they regret. So it's always, I always think it's fun to go back and look at, players that were drafted and what
Yeah.
happened to them.
Bill, what do you got?
I've got Jim Constantine. He was a pitcher, a relief pitcher for the Phillies. He died at 59 in 1976, but he's got an interesting stat about him. He remains one of the most unique MVP winners in baseball history. What does that mean? That means he's the only National League pitcher, relief pitcher, ever to win the MVP. Did that in 1950.
Wait, say it again. He's the only.
He's the only
He's the
National
first.
League
Oh,
relief
National
pitcher.
League. National League. Okay.
Because I was
National
thinking of
League
Willie
relief
Hernandez,
pitcher.
but you're right.
National League, not Willie Hernandez.
Or
Okay.
Dennis Eckersley.
Yes, and only National League relief pitcher ever to
Okay.
win the MVP. Mark Davis won the Cy Young.
Gotcha.
It was
Gotcha.
with the Padres.
That's a great one. Wonderful.
isn't
You
it?
would trip up a bunch of people like both Mark and his Tigers and me and my A's were like, whoa, hold on a
Yeah,
second.
Mark was. I could see Mark's fire in his eyes. Wait, oh, and then Scott, you just the pulling his shirt going. I'm going to get this guy.
Yep.
But he did help the Whiz Kids to the National League pennant too. Amazing guy.
I was ready to go George Brett on you there.
I know you were, man. You were running out
Pine
of
tar
that
George
dugout.
Brett. Yeah.
Signed by the Washington Redskins, free agent running back John Riggins, who gained 1,005 yards while playing out his option with the Jets last season. Riggins signed a series of one-year contracts totaling a reported $1.5 million. He would really go on to have his best success in those years behind the Hogs offensive line in Washington and would one day end up in Canton in the Hall of Fame. John Riggins, one of the best fullbacks, probably one of the last great fullbacks, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, let's see. But Daryl Johnston was a fullback.
Yeah,
Was
but
it
he
Mike
wasn't the
Allstott?
featured.
He wasn't a great.
the
He never led
featured
the
run.
league in
I meant
rushing.
as the
Yeah.
Okay,
featured
what about Mike
back.
Allstott?
Yeah, Allstott was a great one, and the featured back for a while. He's
Yep.
probably the
Yeah, one of the last. Yeah.
Every name has a story. These are the faces in the crowd.
All right, faces in the crowd. Bill, this one's a bit
Mark, okay,
emotional.
I'll let Mark do the Cal State Fullerton one.
Oh,
I'm going to do Mike Smoot. I'm
Oh,
going with
okay.
Smooter. I'm going with the Smooter. Mike Smoot is an 18-year-old right-hander from Washington, Virginia. Sorry. He struck out all 21 batters he faced in a 4-0 victory for his high school. Mike Smoot goes on to be drafted by the Baltimore Orioles in the 8th round of the 1977 MLB draft. No, he did not pitch in the major leagues, but still his whole life he can tell his family, I was once good enough to be picked by a Major League Baseball team, and one day I threw a no-hitter and struck out every batter.
the Smooter.
Yeah, I love the Smooter.
Mark, it appears that the one regarding Cal State Fullerton was just too emotional for Bill. So
It was.
It was.
Since
And
I
you
was
know
at
what?
the university when she was there.
Yeah, but you know what? This face in the crowd has nothing to do with Cal State Fullerton. It's Judy Garman when she was at Golden West College in Huntington
I
Beach.
almost went there too.
Yeah. She led the wrestlers to the AIAW National Junior Community College Softball Championships. They finished 36-1. In 5 seasons, their team is 101-18.
Whew.
Now, Judy ended up then going and becoming the head softball coach at Cal State Fullerton in 1980 and spent 20 years there. She took them to the College World Series in 1986. She just had a really storied career. But this article is not Cal State Fullerton.
That's right.
It's about
I just
Golden
added
West
that.
College.
Yeah, she
Damn you.
won the College World Series in 86. She didn't take them there. She took that home. And what was the last coach that led Fullerton to some title? The girl that went over to UCLA. Leave our people alone.
No, we're going to filter you. You're going to steal your
Take
people.
Judy Garman's name out of your mouth.
Sorry.
Okay,
Sorry.
Will Smith.
Did you watch a lot since you're a Cal State fan, did you watch the cartoon Teen Titans when you were a kid?
I did not. I
Okay.
did not. But I had heard of Judy Garman. She was also the first coach to reach 1,000 career victories. She also finished her career with 1,249 wins, which at the time was the most in college softball history. This lady could coach. But yeah, Mark, you're right. Golden West College, where she started, and obviously Fullerton beat UCLA to the punch by hiring her.
And
There you
here
go.
And here I thought Judy Garland was only in The Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
Yeah, you're wrong.
She said, Fullerton, there's no place like home.
Pour one more. The 19th hole is open for law.
Bill, 19th hole, R.W. French.
R.W. French. He says, curiously, your reporter writes that Frank Shorter, 2:11:51 in the U.S. Olympic marathon trials, was less than 1 minute slower than the Olympic marathon he won in Munich in 1972. But a glance at the record will show that Shorter winning time in Munich was 2:12:19.8.
Yes,
in
that's
other
right.
words, Shorter's time at the trials was almost half a minute faster than his Munich time, right? They got a letter back from the editor, said, right. Thank you, RW. Now show me your There Will Be Blood, son.
Yes, RW to the rescue. When I was reading that article about Frank Shorter's time, I was like, this doesn't sound right.
No.
I hope someone, and that someone turned out to be R.W. French.
And he's from Pelham, Mass. It's just Pelham 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna find it out. Yep.
Well, he set things straight.
And I feel better about it.
Yes.
Because damn it, that should not have been overlooked.
We can all rest easy.
Yes.
Now, there you have it, people. The June 21st, 1976 issue with George Brett on the cover. Can't thank George enough for coming on with us this week. When we started talking about doing the show, it was guys like Brett who were exactly the ones I had in mind as guests. Now, that's who I had in mind. Doesn't mean that's who I thought we were going to get. So this was nice to fill the fishing pole in the water and come up with such a big one this week. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Mark. Nice work, fellas. Until next week, I'm Scott, and we are past our prime.